So in my attempt to be putting out more content during this whole fun quarantine bullshit, I decided I was going to do some collection videos for you guys. I'm going to break them up by subject so that it's A, not like an hour-long video, and then B, just I could kind of spread the content out a little more. I don't know. But this first one is going to be on my mostly Godzilla collection, but also kind of just like random Tokusatsu, Sentai stuff that I have in my collection. So basically Japanese sci-fi is going to be featured in this first one, and most of it is here behind me right now, but you'll be seeing plenty more as we go through here. The first few bits of my kaiju collection are outside of my office, so up here on top of my fridge I've got I don't even remember what brand it was. It wasn't Jack's Pacific, it was one of those other cheapo brands that have been doing some of those Walmart figures, but they're Kong from Skull Island. They're a relatively large one. And of course he pairs up with the big Jack's Godzilla 2014. Then I got some random assorted stuff up here. I've got one of the other little play sets from the Kong series, and a lot of dust, and Skullcrawler. My Trendmasters Godzilla Micro play set, which is still like the most viewed video on my channel, which is weird. A couple model kits. These are the Bandai Mini Pla. Basically the Megazord and the Dragon Zord, but the, Japanese versions. And then these little super deformed Godzilla. I think the two on the left, the Godzilla on the left and the Baragon, are the West Kenji ones. And I don't know who designed the Burning. When I initially saw them at a toy show, I thought they were all like of the same line, but there's obviously a big quality drop off when you get to this Burning one. And then way up high up here, I've got some other ones. I have the Godzilla Bank from Diamond Select and the Jet Jaguar Bank they made as well. Then some of my oldest stuff, I have my Trendmasters Supercharged Godzilla, Trendmasters Mechagodzilla. I don't have Mothra up there because there's like a lip up there, so you couldn't see it if it was on there, so she's elsewhere. And then the Godzilla 98 with two of the eggs. And then in my bedroom, I have some of the X Plus stuff. So I have basically I was trying to do all the Destroy All Monsters. I think I'm still missing one or two, but I have these aren't like the versions necessarily from Destroy All Monsters, it's just the versions that they put out in the 30 centimeter line. So I have the Gorosaurus, the Mothra larva, Varan, not part of that line or that series, but Gigan, he was just too cool. Gigan was one of the first kaiju films I ever saw, so I wanted to have him. I've got the appropriate Godzilla, Minya, and Garrus, which is one of my favorite X Plus figures. Rodan back there. Baragon, which I believe is the version from Destroy All Monsters. He had like an alternate head you could swap out. So I forget if I think it's Kumonga is the only one I'm missing. Oh, and Ghidorah, but I don't think they're going to do a 30 centimeter Ghidorah ever. And then down here, just a couple of random vinyl figures. So I've got an old Anguirus, the Mudo that was only Bandai Japan, Jet Jaguar, King Caesar, one of the very early Godzilla figures I ever had. One of the first Godzilla movies I ever saw was Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, the original, so very happy to have him in my collection. And then the Iris version of Gamera back here, which is also a very nicely done figure. And then finally making it into the office, up here on the top, because there's not room in the Detolf cases themselves, I have my Monsterverse version of stuff. So I have I think this is a Spitfire version of Godzilla up here holding the Mudo head. Then I have the Rodan and Mothra, all these from Monsterarts, and I'll point out a couple that aren't, but these three are all from Monsterarts. And the Monsterarts Ghidorah back there, which is a beautiful figure that I wish was painted better because it's kind of a dull paint job, but I think it's a really beautiful looking figure. Then the Monsterarts King of the Monsters Godzilla there, looking awesome. Another great release. I really dig this one. I think it's better than the 2014 release. And then we got a couple NECA ones here. So we have the poster version, which I was kind of debating on repainting into kind of a Spitfire version, but I'm kind of still waiting for them to do one in the Monsterarts line, but we'll see. And then the Meltdown, which the day after I bought the NECA Meltdown, they announced the Bandai one, so I probably will be upgrading this guy. And then back here in the back, we have the Kong. This is the Playmates one that just came out at like Walmarts and stuff, and I did a repaint on him to make him look a little better, but he's just like a 5-point of articulation figure. And I guess I'm just gonna include the like Tokusatsu stuff in here, Sentai stuff in here. I don't have much, so I just have some of the Hasbro Power Rangers up here. So the Putty, Lord Zed, I think Goldar fell behind everything, so he's probably on the floor somewhere. which is not going to be fun to retrieve. And then, some of the Rangers that are out so far, I think the Yellow Ranger is out now, so I still have to get her or him, depending on if this is a Japanese or American set. And then I haven't been going too far off of the original series, but I did get the Lord Drakon just because I thought that was a really cool looking figure. Now up here I got some Soul of Chogokin stuff. So I have the Soul of Chogokin Voltron, which is a beautiful figure. I love it. Every time I look at it for more than like 2 seconds, I kind of just get stuck looking at it for a long time because I just think it's a beautifully done figure. And then their Zoo Ranger set, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, whatever you want to call it. So this is the combo form of all three, just really to save space up here. I think I am gonna get rid of these guys up here and then just spread out this display, especially because they just announced a couple new releases in the Soul of Chogokin line. Is it Soul of Chogokin? There's so many Chogokin lines, I can never keep them straight. I think it is. It's SOC, but I don't remember if it's Soul or like Sun or whatever it is. But they did announce they were doing some, I think it's a reissue actually, but it's the Leopardon or whatever from the Spider-Man, the Japanese Spider-Man series, and I kind of want to get that. So I may need some extra space to display some more of these. And then coming over here, I've got some more straight up Godzilla stuff. So this is the theater exclusive Bandai vinyl here for the GMK figure. I have the Tokyo SOS signed by Tom Kitagawa across its stomach there. Not the best place to have a signature on a Godzilla figure, but you know what? It worked out. I know what it is. I have the figure elsewhere, but I have the box for the Revoltech Gigan because when I got it, it was signed by Ken Satsuma. So just have that on display. Have the NECA Pacific Rim little vinyl figures on top of it that were like prop replicas they put out for Comic-Con a while ago. Probably my favorite X Plus here, the Train Biting Godzilla 54. Just a beautifully done figure. I love it. It has a great attitude, a great just menace to it. Just one of my favorite pieces. And then back here is a skeleton kit. I think this was like T-Factos or something like that, who originally did the kit, but this is a bootleg. I didn't know it was a bootleg until later. I bought it at a comic shop and yeah, I didn't know it was bootleg at the time. And then back here is the Ray holding the Godzilla plushie that was a Shin Godzilla promotional item when I was in super hype mode for that and just couldn't resist. And then in front of that is the Ultraman gun that the Space Garrison has. And this is a really cool little prop replica as well. Love that's on the little base of their logo. This first shelf is kind of the older Godzilla incarnations. So we have the Monsterarts 54, the Monsterarts 62, the King Kong vs. Godzilla suit, Monsterarts 64, which is the Godzilla vs. Mothra. I will say I like the sculpting on this, but the scale of the NECA one, I bought it for a custom that you'll see a little later down the road here, but I actually kind of prefer the scale of the NECA one. It's more in scale with the rest of these. So I may end up replacing him with that. I'm not sure though, because I really do like the Monsterarts version. Then the NECA 84 here, I don't love as much. I kind of wish Monsterarts would make a version of, but I do want to see they recently reissued him. And a lot of their newer Godzilla, they've been ditching the shiny ass paint job and going with a more matte paint job. So I want to see if that one followed suit, because if it did, it may be worth upgrading. Then here in the back to go with the 84, I do have the Super X. So Monsterarts did the Super X2 and the Super X3 in some of their little expansion pack pieces, but they never did the Super X1, the original. So this was, I believe, Bandai Machine Chronicles, and it actually worked really well. It's pretty much in scale with what I would expect. And then it had a little peg hole at the bottom that fit a Tamashii stage. So that was a really easy drop into the collection. Next up, we have the more modern Godzillas, or the 2000s Godzillas, I don't know. So we have the original release of the 2000 there with the purple spines. We have the GMK, these are all Monsterarts by the way. And then we have the Godzilla X Mechagodzilla, which I believe he's getting a reissue a little later this year. And then I have the Godzilla, this is the Godzilla Earth way there, back in the back there, the one from the anime. I'm not a fan of the anime, so I didn't really want to invest in I wanted it because I wanted to be a completionist, but I know they've done two different versions of this guy, and I think they're very similar. This is the one that had more with it, so it has the little spaceship there you can see on the left, and tucked way back in here, should move him so you could see him there. Yeah, the little tiny one. So I think the original one they came out with was the same one as this guy, like not the scale, but like it was supposed to be this version of the character, and then that's like the other version of it or whatever. I don't remember. I watched the first one. I've fallen asleep while watching it twice now, so I'm not super versed in that series, but yeah, that's a rant for another day. Then we've got my Shin Godzilla set, and this is one that I am very happy with. I loved Shin Godzilla. I think I talked about it in this channel. I was a huge fan of that movie. So we have the Evolution set, so the two smaller forms of him from Monsterarts, and the Monsterarts original version, or primary version of him. And then I had ordered the Godzilla, whatever they called it, the one where it had the flame effects and the purple spines, whatever, from Monsterarts. But for whatever reason, they ended up like canceling my order at the last minute when it was hard to get. I know he's still available on eBay and stuff. I just haven't felt like spending that money just yet on him. So I have the NECA one in its place. I replaced the front beam. This is a Can of Beams effect, and I really love it. It's a beautiful purple looking color. I think it works really well. It has this kind of like translucent effect to it that's really nice. But the one coming out of his tail is the one that came with the NECA version, just because it's designed to peg into his tail, while the Can of Beams one was not. Yeah, I don't think the NECA one's particularly bad in this case. It's just always going to be bittersweet knowing that I wanted to have the Monsterarts in there, which had some cool extra features as well, and that but that just didn't work out. Next up, we have my kind of miscellaneous kaiju shelf. So a lot of these are from other brands, but some do fit into the whole Monsterarts lineup. Starting from the back, we have a Trendmasters Godzilla 98. It's a really gimmicky, dumb figure, but it fit basically in scale with the rest of these. So when I found it at a flea market, I picked it up. We have the Mezco Kong, which I think is based on the comics, not specifically really the movies, but it kind of had that old Kong vibe, so I put it in there. I also have the Monsterarts Kong from the Peter Jackson film here, which I definitely prefer my Kongs to be the more bipedal, less gorilla-y looking Kongs. I have the Revoltech Rodan back here on a little flight stand. Revoltech Baragon, Revoltech Anguirus, Revoltech Gigan, and Revoltech Mothra. I never know how to pronounce that properly. And then Anguirus came with the Moonlight SY3 back here, so included that as well. I have a Chogokin, some form of Chogokin, I don't remember. Mechagodzilla from Terror of Mechagodzilla. So this is the second version of it. It came with a gimmick where you could pop the head off and had a little brain piece on there. So once the Monsterarts Mechagodzilla came out, I decided to go put the Chogokin one to look like the second version, and then I'd have this bright, shiny, clean one for the original film. Still really would love a imposter Godzilla, you know, like the Godzilla suit with little bits of Mechagodzilla exposed in it. I would absolutely love to have one of those to add to the collection. But I don't know, Monsterarts has not been going back to some of the old designs lately, and I really wish they would. This next shelf is kind of an underpopulated one. It's kind of a Millennium Mech shelf. So it's the two versions of Mechagodzilla from the 2000s films, and then the Gigan from Final Wars. I have kind of debated going ahead and throwing in the older Mechagodzillas and the older Gigan on here, and, you know, thinning out the other shelf a little more, or having it be more organic creatures, maybe even bring Mothra over here. But right now, this is how this is standing. So I keep hoping they'll put out some other Final Wars creatures or some other baddies, you know, like an Orga or something would fit in this shelf just as well, but no such luck. I would kill for an Orga in this line, man. That'd be sweet. Then we're gonna take a detour from Godzilla real quick to go look at some Gamera stuff. So these are mostly the Monsterarts ones. So we have the Guardian of the Universe, the Legion, and the Iris versions of Gamera. I mean, another Chogokin of unknown specification. That's the Gamera the Brave, Todo Gamera, with his little hatchling form there in the front. And then in the back on some risers is the X Plus. I guess it's the Large Monster Series, which I always get confused because Large Monster Series is the smaller X Plus figures, but it's the Nightmare Gamera. And he's definitely bigger than these other ones, but I think he kind of fits in well, especially being a Nightmare. It's cool that he's kind of looming over them. I don't know. I dig that design. I really love the Nightmare Gamera look, so this seemed like a cool thing to have. And I don't know, I feel like I might have been imagining it, but I thought there was a version from X Plus of Gamera from Legion where he's like covered in little Legion soldiers. And the thing's real. I'd love to get that and throw it in the back here as well. And then one more bit of Gamera here. This, or you call this the Dai shelf, because it's not completely Gamera. This is all Revoltech stuff though. So up there in the top left, if I can see my own finger, is the Daimajin. So the only thing that's not Gamera on the shelf. And then we have the Revoltech vintage style or original style Gamera with his spinning things. We have the original Gauss. We have the 90s Gauss with the Gamera that goes with it. And then at the bottom there we have the Legion Gamera with the Legion. They had originally shown off some pictures of some prototypes for figures from Iris, but those never seem to see the light of day, so maybe one day this will expand, but right now this is kind of a set collection here. Now we're back down to the next row of the Detolfs, and this is my Godzilla versus Biollante shelf. So we have the lights and sound version of Godzilla that they put out. NECA is doing a Biollante version of Godzilla that I'm hoping will be more in scale, because this guy is a bit on the tall side. He's a cool figure, but he's out of scale with the rest of the line. So if that one is more in scale, it'll probably get swapped out as long as it's decent. And their latest Godzilla releases have led me to believe it should be. So I'm kind of hoping for that. And this guy would probably get moved elsewhere because he's too cool to put away, but he's just big and clunky in the shelf, especially with a creature as large as Biollante, one of the biggest figures Monsterarts ever did, and one of my favorites. Just a beautiful, beautiful piece with all those tentacles and everything. And then I do have the Super X2 tucked back in the side there. Then we have my Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah shelf, and all these Heisei shelves I love so much. Heisei was like a gold standard for me as a kid. Like, they were the movies that I couldn't see because they weren't like readily available at my video store and stuff. I didn't really see them on TV any. I mean, they were still coming out when I was kind of getting into Godzilla, but like seeing these cleaner versions of the suits of the things that I knew from the old movies just had me so intrigued. So I think Heisei's aesthetic has always kind of stuck with me as just being this important thing in Godzilla fandom or whatever. But this one I have the original color Ghidorah. He is on the special colors stand just so he could fly, but I prefer the colors on the original. And I'm going to jump back and forth between saying Ghidorah and Ghidorah. It's just a product of how I watch these movies, damn it. And the Mecha King Ghidorah here, another beautiful piece. I love how that thing came out. I'm so glad they made it. A little spaceship or a time machine there. Got the 3 Dorats down the bottom. And then that is I believe it's the Rebirth Godzilla, the Godzilla Jr. technically. But the sculpt is basically the 94 suit, so I just kept with that. It's better articulated, so I moved the clunkier original version elsewhere. Then I have my Godzilla vs. Mothra shelf. So of course we have the flying forms of both Mothra and Batra up there at the top, and their larval stages there at the bottom. I have a bunch of the little cannon tanks lining the bottom, and all of the flying vehicles that have come out in some of these Godzilla sets over the years. So all the little fighter jets and things are there in the middle, and then one of the helicopters that came with Godzilla Jr. is in there as well, just because everything was airborne on this setup, so I wanted to keep going with that theme. And now the first Heisei shelf that actually consists of 2 different movies at the same time. So this is a Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla and a Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla setup. Just because there was less from both of these movies and the things are a bit smaller. They're more Godzilla sized than some of those other baddies. So we have the Rodan flying up over the top there. We have the poster version of Mechagodzilla there in the back, and in the foreground we have the real Mechagodzilla from the movie with the Garuda. These are the original releases. Not that that really matters, but I am kind of proud that I tracked down both pieces in their original release. We have the little Godzilla there. We have Space Godzilla with both his crystal effects and the ones from Little Godzilla around him, just to add to that display. We have the Mulgura, and then we have all the little maser tanks there across the bottom. And then if I had to pick a favorite display out of all these, this would probably be it. It was the first one of these I did that was all crazy and just a bunch of characters all compact into one shelf looking like a big... And I was trying to emulate some of the look of some of the posters where you just see layers of characters and stuff. I mean, not quite to the extent of the posters, but just to give it a interesting visual appeal. And this was the first one I did, and I was pretty happy with it. So this is the Destroyer shelf. So of course we have the titular monster there in the back. We have the Super X3 coming off one wing. We have his evolution forms here on the side. We have the 2.0 of the Burning Godzilla with the smoke effects, which is fantastic. I love the smoke effects he came with. And he has the little crab form of Destroyer crawling up on top of him. We got Godzilla Jr. there in the front. We have a couple of little cooling cannons down there. We have the one helicopter that I kept with Godzilla Jr. Then in the back on the left, you can kind of see I have the Comic-Con explosion version of Godzilla. That's supposed to kind of represent the meltdown. And then on the right in the back, we have the original release 94 Godzilla suit. So lesser articulation, but that one just to have statically to kind of represent the Godzilla Jr. Rebirth version. So I swapped my actual, what's supposed to be really Godzilla and what's supposed to be the Rebirth versions between my displays. figures, but they're basically the same design, so it felt like it worked out pretty well. Next up, a relatively new shelf I put together. This is for my Ultraman stuff. So I picked up some of the stuff in this line a while back, and I kind of drifted away from the line for a while, and earlier this year I went back with a vengeance and started picking up some of the ones that I'd missed out on. So we're going to start on the back from left to right. So we have Bolton and Mephilus. I don't know how to pronounce that properly. And the little ship in between is the one that came with the anniversary set of Ultraman. And I believe in the show that ship was used both for Mephilus and for Bolton as their ship, so it felt like a good place to put that ship. And kind of standing in front, we have the Ultraman Taro. Then back behind him, we have Zayton. Then Ultraman Jack and Twin Tails. Then coming down to the next line, we have King Joe, Dan Moriboshi, Alien Metron, Ultra 7, Alien Guts. Then we have regular Ultraman down at the beginning of the next line. Gamera. Then I was talking about modding that NECA 64 Godzilla suit. So this is the 64 body with a head off of one of those Bandai Creations Godzilla figures to make it look more like Jiras. I still have to make the frill for him, but I haven't figured out the right way to do that yet. So right now, he has a bloodline kind of going around his neck, so he's like the version after his frill gets torn off. And then next to him, we have Zoffy. And then last but not least, I have my Ultraman Gene set. This was the most recent Ultraman series I've watched, and I kind of fell in love with it, so I wanted to pick up all the figures from it. I'm still missing, I think, one or two. No, I'm missing the Royal Mega Mixer. I know there's another one coming up. I don't remember if there's any in between I've missed. But from the back, from left to right, we have Ultraman Zero, we have Belial, and we have Ultraman Gene. And in the front, we have Ultraman Zero Beyond, Belial Atrocious, and Gene Magnificent. So not a lot of figures in this line, not nearly as much as the other one, but I think they make a nice little display here. So that is it for the current state of my Godzilla collection, or my Tokusatsu collection, at least in terms of action figures. This has been one of the things I've collected for the longest times in my life. I've been collecting Godzilla stuff since I was a pretty young kid, and I have a lot of other things like books and posters and autographs or whatever, but as far as figures themselves go, that's the collection. If you guys are interested in seeing some of that other stuff, let me know in the comments, and I could also do another video highlighting that. It'll probably be a pretty short video because there's not quite as much to talk about as there is figures, but yeah, I could definitely do that if there was a desire for it. So that's it for this one, and I'll be doing another collecting video. You'll probably see me in the same damn t-shirt, in any likeliness, in an upcoming video, and we'll keep going, and I'll try to at least add to your entertainment factor while all this crap is going on. So I'll see you guys next time.